looks like we got about a foot of snow overnight. So, yeah, that's maybe a foot deep. So I'm going to get out here and plow the driveway. Now my driveway is about a quarter mile long, so I got to get to it. But the other thing I wanted to mention is it's time for me to start planting crops. I've got a little greenhouse and that helps a lot. But even though this, I think I'm in zone 5 or zone 6, I'm not sure. But the point is around here, you can't put frost-sensitive plants in the ground until June 1st. That's normal for us around here. But it's April right now, and I've already started planting some plants in March. That's kind of what I want to show you today, is how you do that and what the results can be, because I've been doing this for quite a long time and I know what works and I also know what doesn't work. I've done plenty of those. But anyway, without any further ado, let's get on with this. Now, if we're going to get a head start on the season, and while it's still snowing outside, let's make our first little project something really simple, something that you really don't even need a greenhouse for. You can still start the seeds early in the year just inside your house in a windowsill or something. And for the first little while, you don't even need a windowsill. You just need a place where it's warm, like room temperature. And that'll work just fine. Now, this is what you call a Roma tomato. See, you look at that. And these are what they call heritage tomatoes. Now, heritage means that if you collect the seeds from a tomato that you grow, that you can plant those seeds and they'll grow the same tomato. Now, one thing to pay attention here is you can see this little chart on the back here, and what it says is it has a lot of planting advice, but the thing we're really interested in is the days to germination, and it says germination here is 14 to 18 days, so that's roughly anywhere between 2 and 3 weeks. These should start to germinate. Now, germination means that the seeds will start to sprout. Now, if you get it in a nice warm place, at least with tomatoes, they'll sprout a little sooner than that. Now, days to maturity, 95 to 120 days. That means that you'll start to be able to pick tomatoes off of these in 95 to 120 days. Now, when you go to buy your tomato seeds, different varieties of tomatoes have different maturity times and so forth. Some of them mature rather quickly, like maybe 2-3 months, and some of them mature a little bit later than that, like these. Now these Roma tomatoes, they're kind of a pasty kind of tomato. These are good for making tomato sauce and things like that. Slicing tomatoes are things like brandywine tomatoes, for example. That's another heirloom type tomato. And it's a nice, big, meaty tomato that you can grow, and they're just absolutely delicious. And you won't find those in the supermarket because they're just not conducive to being handled and picked green and all of the things that the mechanized farms need these days to handle tomatoes and get them out of the field and get them to the supermarket as quickly as they can. Now that's another thing that you're going to find that while I'm talking about that is tomatoes that you find in the supermarket. They are bred so that they are easily grown, easily picked. They're even picked when they're green, and easily handled and stored and shipped so that when they get to your supermarket, they look really nice. Now they taste like tomatoes, all right, but they don't taste like a tomato really should taste. I'm sure that most of you have actually tasted a vine-ripened tomato out of someone's garden. They taste much, much better. But you can't mass produce those kind of tomatoes because they bruise too easily. They don't handle as easily as the other ones do. You just have to be so careful with them, you know, if you're going to transport them in a truck and so forth, that, you know, they're not economically viable. Now, how to do this? Now, as you'll notice here, what I've got is some planting pots. Now, these are little fibrous little pots, and what happens is they absorb water very well, and they come in a kit like this. You know, there's like 15 pots. Now, there's a lot of varieties of these, a lot of brand names, but these work really good. And the reason they do is because once you get your seeds planted in there and they start to grow well, the seeds will basically find their way, and they'll penetrate through this outside wall of the container, and the roots will go right through there, so you don't need to take them out of the pot here to plant them. All you can plant them right in the pot, right in the ground, or in the greenhouse, whatever you're going to do with it. But these work really great because you don't have to pull the plants out of the pots to plant them. Now, the other thing, while I'm mentioning it, is the cost of tomato plants. Now, those of you who want to grow tomatoes and you don't want to go through all the trouble, sure, you can go down to a gardening store and buy a flat of tomato plants. Just one tomato plant that's got 6 little tomato container that's, you know, they'll fit in your hand, and there's like 6 little plants in them. I don't remember now, but they're $4 or $5 these days for, you know, and that's a lot of money. So if you want to get, you know, a couple dozen plants and plant them, you're looking at, you know, pretty substantial investment. But if you plant them right now, these are really cheap. This is a really cheap way to do it. So now that I've talked your ear off about why to do it, here's what we're going to do. Let me show you. This is really quite easy. Let's see, if you see inside here, there's seeds in there, and there's a handful of them. Now, that's another thing. Seeds aren't too cheap either, but you get a lot of seeds to plant stuff. Now, so if you put them in here, I'm just going to put them so that they're under the soil just a little bit. Now there's a lot more seeds. There's 6 or 8 seeds there that I put on there, and hopefully, ideally, if you could have everything under your own control, you'd want one plant in one pot, and that way you can just put it right in the soil and off it goes. But, you know, these seeds are about 5 years old. These are old seeds, so some of them may not sprout, and naturally some of them don't sprout anyway. Now that you've got them planted here, the thing to do is you put them in a container like I've got here. Now this, I think, is an old container from some donuts that we bought or something. So you don't have to go all out. And then all you do is you put some water in it, and just in the bottom, and just let it sit. Now, what will happen, of course, is this will soak up the water, and all you need to do is come by every day or so and put some water in it. Now, you don't need much water in this container, maybe about that much, just enough that the bottom of the container is in the water, and it'll absorb that up through the dirt that you put in here. Now, I didn't talk about soil, but the best soil to put in here would be something like garden soil or something like that. If you can go down and buy a bag of that stuff at the store, or if you have some nice garden soil in your yard, you know, we're not going to go into what that means right now, but you can just, you know, put that in these pots, and they'll soak up the water and they'll get wet. Now, what you do is, I'm going to just put these in the house, in somewhere, you know, where they're out of the way, just somewhere where it's room temperature, because until they come out of the pot here, you know, of course, they don't need any light, but as soon as they start getting a little high, a little tall, you're going to need to put them in a window or something, or somewhere where they get daylight. See, like where I'm at here, I can take them out here in the day and let them have some sunshine, and then bring them back in at night, because it'll freeze in here, and they'll die in the frost really quick. So Now the idea is, now if you, it is April right now, and you can't put these outside to plant until around here anyway, at least until June 1st. Now a lot of places that varies. You know, when's your first frost typically? You have to know that yourself, and you can find, you know, by asking around. But point is by that time, these will sprout in a couple of weeks. If you count the days and weeks, these should be about that tall, or thereabouts, before June, when you can put them out in the garden and grow tomatoes. Now, if you get plants that tall at the box store or the garden center, you know, they're like $5 a piece. So this saves you a lot of money, and you know what you're growing. And so this I think, for me, it's preferable. Now, just for now, let's stop this at the end right here, and I'm going to take these inside, and we'll see when they germinate. And we'll, as a matter of fact, maybe you at home can do this yourself. Do something like this, and buy yourself some seeds. Seeds are a lot cheaper than plants. So go ahead and do this, set one up yourself, and when these things start to sprout, which I think will be a week or so, if it's nice and warm in the house, then we'll talk some more about what to do next and where to go next.